Okay, welcome back everybody. It's time for some user interface. All right, so what are we going to do first with this? So far we can go through our level and it only prints to the console that we have won our game. So we do have a block of code here in our last video. We have a trigger and all it is printing win game to the console. We're going to have some more action happening there shortly. But first, what is a user interface? How do we work with it? So a user interface is something called a canvas in Unity. So I'm going to right click in my hierarchy and I'm going to go down to what's called UI and I'm going to add a canvas right there. Okay, once we add our canvas, it creates this overlay, which is a little bit strange, but here it is way up here with a really crazy high resolution. There it is. Our level is this tiny little speck down here. And it can be confusing, but an easy way is just to go over here and press F so I can zoom in on it. But if I want to go back to my player and do level design, I can press F and zoom in on that. So back to the canvas here. On our canvas, we're going to be adding a few things. So first, I'm going to right click and I'm going to create an empty. I'm going to be creating two UI screens. The first one we're going to be calling is the start screen. Okay. And then I'm going to duplicate that. The second one is not going to be called start screen. This is going to be the win screen. All right, so we got our two screens. These are basically just baskets or holders to put some UI elements into. They aren't anything. All they are is a single transform in our canvas. So on the start screen, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to 2D, sorry, not 2D, UI. And what we want to add first is a button. And so we have all these options here, and I want to use the Text Mesh Pro button. We do have legacy buttons. These are from much older versions of Unity. We're going to be using the Text Mesh Pro version, which right away it's going to be creating this button, and we saw it pop up on my game view over here, so we can see the button, and we're going to be calling this button Start Game Button. Okay, so it's really important that we label everything as we go. Otherwise, as you create stuff, you're not going to know what's what. And the Start Game button defaults with the text attachment. There's our text attachment right there called button. Now, it is going to pop up a prompt for you to import the TMT, the Text Mesh Pro asset. So just click yes and import that. It didn't because I already had it installed. But there's our button there. We don't have much going on, but I can control what it says in the text here. So the text, I'm going to change it to say start game. But let's be honest, this button is super boring and really small. So first thing first, we're going to make this button bigger. And I want to move it up a little bit. So, ooh, a little too quick there. So there's my start game button ready to go. And I haven't done any changes. Now, first of all, when I want to, the text that is attached here, you're likely going to want to pick a better font. Now, the sad thing here is in Unity, we only get a couple default fonts in Text Mesh Pro. But you can bring in your own custom font. So I'm going to show how to do that really quick here. So in Google, my favorite font site is just called Dafont. So we're going to go to dafont.com. Open this up, and there are, I don't know, 98,000 fonts here for you to choose from. I'm going to go with something that matches our theme. I'm just going to put in the word pixel and see what we get. And there's just tons of cool fonts to choose from here. I'm not going to spend too much time here. I want you to, but I just want to pick something that I think works for our game. And this simple one I like. Okay, so I'm going to download this one. It's called Pixel Mix. So when I download that, that's going to go into my downloads folder here. I can go up here and click the folder to see where it went, which should be in my downloads folder. So I'm going to right click that, and I'm going to extract all. And just extract where it's going to go. And give it a second. And here it is. I have a regular and I have a bold. So I do have two here to play with. I'm just going to I think I'll just go with this one here. And so I don't think I can drag that right into, oh yeah, there we go. I can drag it right into Unity, or you can do an import asset. Now, there is a problem. You're going to notice, hey, I can't access this font yet. It's a quick modification that we need to do to this font to turn it into a TextMesh Pro font. So all we need to do is go to Window, not UI Toolkit, sorry, where is it? TextMesh Pro is right here. And we want to do a font asset creator. We have to modify this asset. So I'm going to bring in this true font into here. I don't have to change any settings, just create font atlas and save. And it's going to put it right with my other fonts. So I'm going to save it right there. And now you're going to see we have our font. I can drag and drop it. Oh, let's select our text. I can drag it into my text in the inspector here. And now I got a new font. Now we can see it's a little bit oversized, so let's we can fix that, no problem. So here's all of our settings with our text, and right now the button is really small, so I'm just going to expand the size of the button here. The button size can be expanded using the width and the height values here. So I'm going to increase this width. Let's take the width and play around with these numbers, of course. We're going to make the width, let's try 400 for now. And you're going to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a few tweaks here. I'm going to go 400 there, and I'm going to make the height about 50. And then I'm going to go back to my text. And going down to my text here, I can increase the font size to fill that up a little bit. Probably, oh yeah, the bold does work, so that's great. I can change the color here as well if I wanted to change the color of my text. It's always going to default to being centered. Down here you can actually control a lot of the colors and the outlines, the underlay, the lighting. You can play around with a lot of these effects down here, but I'm just going to leave mine as that for now because I want to show you what I can do with the button. So leave the text be. I'm going to go to my button here, and we can see with all these settings for my button here in the inspector. Let's minimize that. I don't need to see this. Oh, no, it's not going to let me do it. That's fine. Okay, so I don't need to see that. Don't need to see the image. You could bring in an image if you wanted to, of course. So now I can change around all the colors, but I'll be honest, I don't like the look of a whole button on the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the normal color and I'm going to bring the transparency way down. And now you can see it just has the start game there. So I like that. When I do the highlighted color, when my mouse hovers over it, whoops, I'm going to let that go. I'm just going to try green just to show you what it looks like and bring the transparency down quite a bit, down to about 60 here. And then when I press the button, I want it to go to a darker green with a darker transparency, so less see-through here. And we're not going to be selecting this because once we click it, it's gone. The duration will be how long it takes to go between colors. So let's just show you what this button does, because right now I will be able to click it. It's not going to do anything, but we'll have a button on our screen. So I'll show you what this looks like as soon as it loads. And UI can be time consuming as you get it set up just the way you want. Just give it a second here, and don't put this too high so it doesn't get cut off by the screen with resolutions. Alright, here we go. So my player's auto running, but if I highlight, you can see the green box comes over, and if I click it, it goes a little bit darker. Now, in code, we're going to make this disappear, so you're not going to see the white coming back over it. So I do like that. Feel free to play with that as much as you want, but that's how I want my button to work in my game. Now, also on this start screen, I'm going to be adding another text. And a great way, once you have text that you like, and you have it in the font, the color, maybe I will change the color here just really quickly. I don't want to go green. There's red, so maybe I'll go. Let's just show you some colors. I don't love the design, but we'll play with this. So that's red, and then I can go to the outline here, and it is set to black, and then I can just upgrade the thickness. So then you can see I'm getting it. Let's zoom in on this actually on the screen so we can see it better. There we go. And then you can change the thickness. Okay, so I kind of like the look of that. There. So I got some colors, and instead of recreating an entire text object, because we want to put a little bit of instructions on the screen as to how you play your game, I'm just going to press Control D. That's going to copy paste that text. I'm going to take the text as well and just put it off of the button. So notice I'm de-childing it, but it's still part of the start screen. So if I minimize that, it's all minimized. So this I'm just going to call controls. This is my controls text. Okay, and this one is my button text. Now you can't see it because it's right on top, so I'm just going to move the controls text down. And this I'm going to, mine is very simple for my game, is space to jump. And maybe I should put before that controls is what I'm going to type. And this is a little bit too big. I want to bring the font size on this and maybe put a colon in front of controls. And I kind of like to put maybe jump in quotes. Again, you can decide, and you might have more controls than what I have. And maybe put a little space in there. And let's move it down slightly. Space to jump. There we go. Okay, so now I have a button and I have some text that tells me the controls for my game. And if I play test, that button still does nothing. Okay, so let's go and control the button in this UI. All right, so let's go into our coding. And the first thing first, we're going to scroll all the way up to the top here, and we're going to need a couple basic references. I'm going to get a public, and this is what we're going to call a game object. So in Unity, we can reference any game object in our hierarchy, and this is going to be my start screen UI. Okay, and then I'm also going to create a public game object, and we're going to call this the windscreen. There we go. And those are both public, so I am going to have to reference them in the Unity inspector. So now I can control these two game objects and everything that is attached to them in code. So let me show you how to reference those really quick. Hopefully this doesn't take too long to load this time. So if I go to my player and I scroll down here and I have two empty slots. So my start screen, of course, on my canvas, I'm going to drag the start screen parent right there. And we haven't done anything with the windscreen yet, but I am going to drag and reference that now while we're doing this. Okay, now let's control the button. To control a button, all we need to do is create a method. So I'm going to go way down here and I want a method to play when I press the button or activate. So I must make the method public to have access to it. So public void, it's not going to return anything. That's why we put void. And we're going to call this method the start game method. Open and close the parentheses and then add our braces to enter some code. In our start game, we're going to be doing something very simple. All we need are 2 lines of code. First thing first, we're going to take that start screen, okay, and we're going to set it to deactivate. So there's a method called setActive, and then all I need to do is say false, and that's going to turn off the screen because when you press start game, you want to turn that UI off. Then we want to make our player start to run. Well, we have a variable for that already called horizontal input, and we're going to set that equal to 1F. Okay, so it's going to start our player moving. That's it. That's all. Now we're going to go back into Unity and access this new method, this new function start game. So let me show you how to do that. It's just loading, so bear with me. Okay, so we're going to go to our button, which is start game button. Here it is. And down in the inspector here, if we scroll down, there's an on click. It says list is empty. We're going to add a method there. So first thing is we need to reference from what script. Well, we want it from the script attached to the player. So we're going to reference the player like so. Okay. And once we've referenced the player, now I have access to all scripts that are on the player game object. So I'm going to click here and go down, and we can see our player movement script, and it has some default methods, but we can see down here, there is my start game method because I made it public, so I can access it. So now on click, it's going to run that code from my player movement. Just expand this a little bit. From my player movement script, it's going to run the start game method. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to have happen, and it should turn the UI off. Let's test it, but first thing, remember, I have to set my player's movement to 0. So I'm just going to the horizontal input here, and I'm going to set it to 0. Otherwise, my player is going to auto run before I press the start game. All right, give it a second here. Okay, so we're in game mode, and you notice my player is not moving. I can jump, which is fine. I just can't move. Even if I use the arrow keys, I can't control that input. And then you see its highlights. My controls are here to tell me how to play, and I press start, and off it goes. And we're ready, and we're playing our game. Awesome. Okay, so we have a start UI. It's very simple, but it can do everything we need it to do. And now we need to do something at the end here. My console is telling us win game, so that should tell you a pretty big hint on what we need to do next. So the wins game screen, what do you want it to say when we win our game? Well, I'm going to create a restart game button, which is really easy to do, and I'm going to put up another bit of text saying congratulations, you win, something really simple. So how do we do that? Well, really simple. I'm going to be taking this win screen, and what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to be taking the controls, the start game button, and the button text, and I'm going to duplicate all of that. Okay, so I'm going to go I'm going to select it all and go Control D, and then I'm going to drag these on, these duplicates, there they are there, onto my win screen. So just make sure you do that carefully. And then my start screen, so I can see this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn it off. Okay, so that's going to turn it off. So now all I can see is the win screen, but notice the win screen is the exact same as, because I duplicated it. So let's make some changes. So this is not going to be a controls text. This is going to be a win text. And all I'm going to do on this win text is really simple. I'm going to go over here and say, congrats. Let's do it in capitals. Congrats, you win. Okay. Really simple. You put in whatever text you want. My start game button, well, this isn't going to be a start game button anymore. It's going to be a restart game button. So then I'm going to go into the text, which is in the child here. We can open and close that. Find the button text. And this I'm just going to change to restart game. And the beauty of this is all my fonts and my format, everything's been copy pasted. It's ready to go. Now, of course, on the button though, we need to be careful because it did copy this method, which we don't want to be using. So let's go back to our script and create a restart game button. And we need to be creating, adding some stuff that happens on this trigger. So let's do the trigger stuff first. So once we hit this trigger, we want to make my player stop moving. So we're going to set the horizontal input back to 0. Okay, so I want that to happen. And then we also, before I do that, or after, it doesn't matter, I'll put it before, we want to turn on the win screen. Okay, so remember to do that, we need to reference the win screen, and we're going to go set active, and I'm not going to go with false this time. I'm going to set it to true because I want this one to turn on when we hit the trigger. So now that win screen is going to turn on, it's going to stop our player from moving, and now we also, oh sorry, that's it. That's all we need there. The next thing I was going to say is we need to create the restart game method. So again, public void, and this one's going to be called restart. Let's call it restart game. Open and close parentheses, and then some braces. And inside the restart game method, we are going to restart the scene. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, scenes again are like levels in video games. So scenes in Unity, I want to restart this scene. Well, to do that, we actually have to bring in another class that we haven't used yet. So we go way up back to the top here. We're going to say using Unity Engine, and we want to bring in the scene management class. This allows us to control all of the scenes and loading different levels. It's how you do your level management in a game overall. So now that I have access to this, I'm going to go back down into my restart game, and I want one line of code. That's it. All we need to do is access the scene manager. Okay, and it has a function called load scene. So it's going to load the scene that I want it to. Now I want it to load the same scene that we're in. I want to restart the scene. Well, there's a quick way to do that. We're going to again reference the scene. Sorry, my cursor's in the way. Load scene, we're going to be referencing the scene manager again. And it has a function called getActiveScene. So that's going to be the current scene that we're in. And I want to return the name of it. So I go .name, and that's going to restart our scene. So everything is ready to go now in our coding. Let's go back to Unity. We're almost done here, so bear with me. We've done a lot in this episode with our UI. So over back in Unity, I have to go to my restart game button and scroll down, and I don't want the start game method now. Go down to the player movement script, and I should see, there it is, restart game. So now this button's going to restart the game, and all that's left is a couple little tweaks, and then we'll test it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take the whole windscreen and turn it off, because we don't want that on right now. And we're going to go back to the start screen and turn it back on. And let's test our level. Let's see if everything works. All right, here we go. Do we have a complete video game? So here we are. We're waiting. We can highlight. We're going to go start game. That UI turns off. Let's see if I can pass this super complicated, difficult. You got to be a high-end pro gamer to pass this level. Boom, we hit it. My player has stopped. Yes, I can still jump. That's fine. If I hover over this, it does show up just like the other button. Congrats, you win. Let's just test the button. Boom, we are back to the start. We have a complete game from start to finish. That's it. That's all. There are tons of extensions to enhance this game. Again, this is just a prototype, but you are ready to add whatever else you want. That's it, that's all. I'll see you in the next video where I'm going to teach you how to upload your game to itch.io so anybody in the world can play your game. Bye for now.